Welcome back to some new malicious compliance stories, where people complied to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Manager Relationship. I was working in fast food at the time, overnights under golden arches, and I had been working there for about 9 months at the time. I had started talking to someone who used to work there as a manager after they quit. They decided to come back a few months later, but by that time we were engaging in a relationship. Fast forward 6 months. Me and this manager had been on and off a few times, but they were a manager on my shift the entire time. I had never notified the company of our relationship to begin with, assuming they did upon hiring, and that the company didn't need constant notification. At this point though, my hours disappeared. I thought it was an accident on the schedule at first, and my main manager would authorize me clocking in anyway. I was a good employee, and they needed the buddy. The worst part about it was that they were scheduling me from 9 PM to 3 AM on the only 2 days I had left out of my availability. This meant I had no way to get home. I ride the bus, and they couldn't legally schedule me out of my availability in the first place. Here they can ask you to prove your availability, but they can schedule you outside of it, unless you have already failed to prove it. Eventually, managers from other shifts began telling my managers and me that it was because of said relationship. My shift's managers were also told they would be written up if they continued to authorize me clocking in when I wasn't scheduled. When I texted my GM about it, they sent me the relationship policy. While it did include that they needed to be notified, it also stated that new hires were responsible for notifying management of all relationships, not pre-existing staff members. At this point I was pretty point blank, stating we were in a relationship when we were hired. If they didn't reinstate my hours, I would apply for underemployment and report them. I also threw the manager under the bus, saying they should be the one in trouble here, not me, because I was a bit irritated they hadn't notified the company upon rehiring. The GM told me they would need to schedule a meeting about it with the regional manager, but made no attempts, from my perspective, to make that happen. The GM also offered to switch me to days for less pay, or to another store with the same pay cut. I denied this because I would quit before working days in fast food again, or taking a pay cut, because someone else didn't do their job. My hours didn't come back the following week either. I believe the main overnight manager was on vacation that week. So, cue malicious compliance. I worked the hours I was scheduled, and not a minute more. They called me twice that week, asking me to come in and help with cleaning. I said no. I don't want to get anyone in trouble for working unauthorized hours. The GM had to come in at 3 in the morning and do my usual deep cleaning tasks because nobody there knew how. I didn't hear another word about it, but my hours were back and within my availability again the next week. I quit, and so did my managers about 3 months later, but it felt nice to get this win. The next story is called Friday, Not Saturday. This happened when I was a teenager, around 18 to 19. I worked for the small bakery in my town. The owner was the worst man I've ever met. He had no business being around people, let alone managing employees. I was a key holder and the sole cashier of the store really early on. I was left alone to run the place and close it every day. He only gave us half-hour breaks for 10-hour shifts. He frequently made fun of his employees, so his buddies could laugh at us when they visited. I can go on and on about this man, but the best summary I can give is that I saw 2 people quit on their first day while working for him. I told him I was leaving 3 weeks in and gave him a week's notice. He, of course, complained about how unprofessional I, the teenager, was being. I also specifically told him that I would not work the next Saturday. My last day would be Friday. I didn't want to work Saturday, because that was sandwich day. The day the entire building stops making cookies and pies and makes sandwiches, so they can be shipped off for other businesses to sell. It was always the most stressful day, because there was too much work and too few people to do it. Also, the owner, instead of lounging at the front of the store, had to work with me. And he had no respect for personal space. No matter how many times I brought up how uncomfortable I was, he ignored or interrupted. So I wasn't going to work Saturday. During my last week, I reminded him a few times, but he never seemed to get it. One day I asked him when I should give my key back, whether I should leave it in the store Friday night or some other time. He interrupted me and said I should give it back at the end of my shift on Saturday. He was convinced that my last day was going to be the dreaded sandwich day instead of Friday. I chose not to correct him. I locked up as usual on Friday, slept in the next morning and wandered down to the bakery to give my key back. I walked in and it was chaos. Customers were lined up and an employee who usually worked in the back was trying to man the cash register and failing. The owner had gotten off for once and was rushing around, making hundreds of sandwiches, red in the face and swearing under his breath. I raved at him, but he made a point to look away from me. I put my key on the counter and walked out. He actually had to sell the bakery a few months later. Something about running out of people willing to work. I know I wasn't the catalyst for that particular development, but it's nice to know I helped. The third story is called Today. My graphic design instructor is a stubborn older man and absolutely hates being told what to do. Let's call him Goat. Goat has been at my school for around 14 years. And each year he's told any new admin at the school to leave him be, because he will not jump through hoops for them. This year, a new principal and a whole new group of people have come in. They are not used to Goat. They are used to willingly compliant teachers and scaring them into compliance. Last year, the school had implemented a requirement for a Today statement. It's an unnecessary acronym for Today's objective statement. And since last year had the admins that understood that Goat doesn't jump through hoops, they didn't give much flack for that. Now that we have new admins, they came in to review my class period. Goat doesn't have a Today statement, because it's a graphic design class. He doesn't really think that the Today statement is necessary, because the information Goat gives typically is pretty straightforward. Design a logo for a standard Pitbull Kennel Club that is gritty and intimidating. Design your own resume for graphic design, etc, etc. Goat goes on to explain to admin that my class is a practicum class, which is applying the skills you've learned and gained in a practical way. Taking client work is quite literally the lesson plan. Goat even gave the admin a copy of a logo prompt for our client when asked for the Today statement, which apparently wasn't good enough for the admin and influenced the rating for him. In response, Goat has printed out our Today statement, which reads, "Today we will be doing client work, all day, every day, and the next day, and the next day." The last story is called Not Sick Enough. Back in freshman year I had PE, and everyone on a whole would go to the track to run a mile. I was normally reasonably fast, being young and relatively athletic, finishing before the majority of the class but never at the head of the pack. But on this particular day, I was sick. So sick that I honestly shouldn't have gone to school. But my dad, to no one's surprise, didn't believe me and made me go anyway. It happened to be the day we were to run the mile. I informed the coach that I was ill and asked to sit out. He, like my dad, wasn't having it. He basically said, if I'm well enough to be at school, I'm well enough to go the mile. Fine, I'll go, but I can barely breathe, so there's no way I'm running. So I just walk. Not slowly, but at a normal pace. Probably about the same pace as just the slackers from class. As you might have guessed, I'm at the end of the pack. I'm getting lapped by everyone. If you've ever run a mile on the track, then you know you have to do a few laps to get the full mile. Everyone else has already finished as I walk up to the line, and they expect me to be done too. The thing is, this was only my third lap. So when the coach gives me a look, all I say is, I still have one more lap to go. And continue on my merry way. Because the coach couldn't see how obviously sick I was, I made him and the entire rest of the class wait, sitting in the hot desert sun, while I gingerly waltzed my way down the track, the only one left out there. Maybe next time when someone is sick he will believe them, but I honestly doubt it. He wasn't the type to take a lesson learned too hard. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.